This is great for the team to put them away early. I mean, this just shows each other like we can really do this season. You know, we're a great team to get all together, and as we stick together, then great things can happen as a team.
Nagi, just a couple weeks away. You know, how do you guys feel like going to that game?
It's going to be a great game. We just gotta go day by day still. These next 2 weeks or week and a half, whatever you want to call it, are going to be huge for us to, you know, take day by day, have great energy at practice, study film hard, and just come out on top during the game. We got to just work hard for it. It's going to be a great game.
You got Nagi, Thanksgiving, maybe the last Thanksgiving ever.
I promise you this will not be the last Thanksgiving ever, but it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a great challenge. Naugatuck's a great football team. You know, they might have the best player in the state in Jet Hall. He's, you know, unbelievable player, but surrounded by great players, and they're a great team. And, you know, we look forward to it. It's been so many great games. It's going to be a great challenge.
5-yard touchdown run.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bowley. And we have reached the penultimate week of the regular season, the week before Thanksgiving. It is week 11. Finally, at last, we're down to the nitty-gritty. Just one crazy, it's going to be a crazy week, but one minor schedule, lots of crazy games, lots of big games, but one minor week left before we jump into the Thanksgiving finale, the big Turkey Day. What do I want to say? The big Turkey Day.
Extravaganza.
Extravaganza. Whatever. You know, our favorite time of the year, also the craziest time of the year for guys like that. Joining me I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bowley, and joining me, as always, is Pete Paguaga. Pete, how you doing? You hanging in there?
Yeah, barely. It was so cold on Friday.
Yeah,
It
cold.
was freezing. I honestly wanted rain. I would have traded it for rain.
No. Lest you forget how miserable that was, I would rather freeze my butt off than sit in a driving rainstorm with my hands, my camera on no, forget it. I will never have it. But yeah, it was cold. It was frigid, you know, and hey.
I just kind of want to get past this week, get into Thanksgiving, jump into the playoffs. Let's hit the fast forward button here a little bit.
Yeah, we got a lot to do. We got a lot going on. We have picks. They're going to be out. We got to record our picks for next week, starting this week, and you know, Pete's been working hard on our Thanksgiving Day previews, our Thanksgiving week previews, I should say. He's got all the capsules. We'll have all that good stuff. Previews on every single matchup in the state. That's coming up. We also have the playoffs coming up too. And Mike Fornabayo and I have been diligently going through all not the scenarios, but we've been trying to do the moderate calculations to see who's in and who's out of the state playoffs at this point. And you know, we're gonna start over at Class S, where Ansonia and Oxford were the two teams that played in the NVL unbeaten showdown Thursday night at Jarvis Stadium. And it was with the running joke, Pete, is that it's Maction. The NVL is Maction. They always play on the Thursday night, the odd game, where they have the spotlight basically all themselves. The big games always end up there. So they call it, just like college football, they call it Mactions. The Values version, 8-0 Ansonia playing host to Oxford. Also 8-0 in the first time in school history looking for its first playoff berth. We figured already that they have clinched, but hey, this is a good big old Valley showdown. Nonetheless, for seeding and all that good stuff, and to see where Oxford is going to fall into this hierarchy of Ansonia and Bloomfield at the top. From the start, Pete was our guy, Matt McGuire, following blocks, making moves, busting through the Chargers line, and setting the Wolverines up 1st and 10 inside the 10. But Ansonia's defense tightened. Makai Ingram makes a nice play in the back of the end zone on 3rd down. And on 4th down, the rush forces the turnover on downs. Ansonia takes over, no score. 2 plays later, Makai Ingram goes 77 yards, behind a convoy of blocks. Ansonia 7-0. Oxford's not deterred, however. McGuire again gets into the second level and taken down near the red zone. But again, Oxford can't capitalize. Preston Zubina, what a great game. Breaks through the line for the sack on Mike Dorsch. Oxford again threatens but can't score. A couple plays later, Sean Richards bursts through the line for a 38-yard touchdown, 14-0. And you can see where this is going. Ansonia gets another stop, and then Richards busts through the line again, gets all the way down inside the 20. And from there, Paul Palmer takes it in on 4th and goal, and it's 21-0 Ansonia. Later, Dubina makes a great play at a high pass, keeps his feet, and breaks a tackle down the sideline in Oxford territory. And if there was any doubts, Ansonia was going to maybe not win this game, it was dispelled right there. Ingram added 2 more touchdowns. Ansonia, unbeaten, heading into its annual showdown with Nagaduk on Thanksgiving morning at Jarvis Stadium. Will it be the last Thanksgiving ever? We asked Mr. Thanksgiving himself, Tom Brockett.
You got Noggy, Thanksgiving, maybe the last Thanksgiving ever.
I promise you this will not be the last Thanksgiving ever, but it's gonna be a great challenge. Naugatuck's a great football team. They might have the best player in the state in Jet Hall. He's an unbelievable player, but surrounded by great players, and they're a great team, and we look forward to it. It's been so many great games. It's gonna be a great challenge.
You a big Thanksgiving Day?
I am, yeah. I have a tradition through my family playing on Thanksgiving, especially here at Nolan Field, so I'm a big Thanksgiving guy.
And what's it mean to be a part of that rivalry too, Ansonia, Naugatuck, and so storied,
It's a great feeling because a lot of people talk about it, especially if you play football. I mean, you know families all around that tell you stories about the great plays they made or saw in the atmosphere here on Thanksgiving. It's a great feeling just to be a part of it.
Afterwards, you also heard from Preston Zubita, who's also a big Thanksgiving Day guy. His family grew up. He had brothers who played, and he loves Thanksgiving too. But the response from Brockett, Pete, afterwards, I can guarantee you, this will not be the last Thanksgiving. I just had to poke the bear a bit from last week. But we did learn that night, actually, that the CIAC had told its football committee that to table the alliance proposal. I know everyone was saying this could probably be installed for next year. Oxford coach Joe Stockmall even said, now we're going to take a look at it, but only after the season, and they're going to send it to the coach. It's a long process, he says, and it doesn't sound like that's going to be a reality, at least next year. Maybe down the road, who knows? But there you go, Pete. Brockett's determined, still beating that drum. No, this will not be the last Thanksgiving.
I think the Thanksgiving talk, I've talked to a lot of people this past week. I think the Thanksgiving talk has overshadowed the glaring issue of the proposal, and that's the expansion of the playoffs. But, I'm sitting here looking at Ansonia Oxford, an 8-0, 8-0 game. This late in the year, you would think it would have massive ramifications. No, Oxford is still 3 in S and probably going to get a home game in the playoffs. So what the hell did that game even do?
No, that's a problem. But hey, you put those games earlier, then they'll count.
Yeah, that game would have mattered a lot more on Columbus Day.
Well, they got to play Naugatuck on Columbus Day, remember?
Yeah. Just saying it, just 72 teams in the playoffs. I think so many people are just freaking out over Thanksgiving and missing the actual point of 50% plus of teams in the playoffs, which would be an absolute disgrace and a gosh darn joke.
Yeah, no, I think you can get a good coalition of people who are being against this program, against this proposal. You have on one side the Thanksgiving guys, right, led by Brockett and Lou Marinelli, and on the other side you've got listen, do we need more teams in the playoffs? This is, a joke. And I think we even saw, I was looking at, there was a team out in Virginia. Now, they have a lot of teams getting into the playoffs down there. There's a team that beat another team in a playoff game, a 1-8 playoff game, 100-0 or 100 to something crazy like that. And all the comments below was like, why are we adding more teams into the playoffs? So it's not just the Connecticut thing. There's out there seems to be a push to add more playoffs. We got to have people in the playoffs, otherwise kids are going to be sad if they don't.
Yeah, well, look, as soon as the CIAC and the schools start bringing in $100 million TV contracts, and you want more playoff games, I'm all for it. But until then, get lost.
Yeah, right. You got to win some games. Win some games. You got to prove yourself. Don't just this isn't. Okay. First off, let's take a look at the top 10 poll. It doesn't really matter at this point because we're caring more about the actual rankings than we do anything else. But just for completion's sake, here it is. Number 10 is Cheshire, which lost to West Haven 25-14 in a hard-fought game, but fell down to number 10 after being number 2 just 2 weeks ago. They've lost 2 straight, and now they're clinging to the 10th spot here, just like they're clinging to the 8th spot in the Class Double M rankings. So Cheshire, fading fast with 1 game left to make it all right. Number 9 is Ansonia. Big Valley game, unbeaten showdown at Jarvis Stadium, and it's no contest. Chargers win 35-0 over Oxford. Number 8 is Shelton, which needed to rally past Xavier 34-23. Chris Taylor, with probably the biggest play of the Shelton season, picking off a pass and carrying everybody across midfield down into Xavier territory. A couple of David Dodge-Licko touchdowns later, and Shelton hung on to defeat Xavier 34-23. Great job by Andy Guion's guys to be in a game nobody thought they had any business being in. But Shelton with a big win, also got a pick 6 there by Mike Spadaccino and had 2 touchdowns by Kanye Tinney. Gales can wrap up a Class L playoff spot by beating Wilton this week. Probably we're going to make it anyway. Number 7 is Newtown, which lost their quarterback, Jared Cordova, last week due to injury. In came Ryan Schofstall, who had a great game for the Nighthawks and rallying them past Bunnell in a pretty big game to put themselves in position for a Class L home game, should all things go well. If they could beat Masuk Thanksgiving Eve, but there it is. Newtown survived that. We'll see what happens for Cordova. Nighthawks right where they usually are this time of year. Number 6 is North Haven. And on Wednesday, the day our podcast dropped, we got the call that Tony Sagnella, who had been suspended for the Cheshire game and then was out for another 5 days, was being allowed to return as head coach of North Haven. North Haven's social media accounts broadcasted the big event where he walked onto the field, complete with music and a whole shebang. He spoke to us briefly to release a statement. He said, I appreciate all the support from the community. It's absolutely overwhelming to know how many people in the North Haven community and the high school football committee who have reached out to offer their support. As to the hows and whys of what happened in North Haven and why he got suspended maybe weeks after the fact of their forfeit, we got a sea of silence from North Haven's public schools. No statement as to what this involved, whether it had anything to do with that forfeit for inappropriate student conduct to start the season. Superintendent Patrick Sturck and Steve Blumenthal, their AD, did not return calls. Sagnella said he couldn't comment. There's not a lot what we can say there. North Haven plays Hamden this week and wraps up with Amity. But for now, it looks like he's back to stay, and North Haven can continue its course. Number 5 is Staples, which beat up on St. Joseph 49-3. Your boy Caleb Smith had a great game, and so did the defense, just with only almost a shutout, only allowing the field goal. They now take a breather, and they get ready for their big game against Greenwich. They're obviously in great playoff shape. They're clinched already, Staples, and it's just now a matter of whether they're going to get the overall number 1 seed. If they beat Greenwich, there's a good possibility they could do that. Number 4, New Canaan beat McMahon, basically ending the Senators season 42-6. The Rams they get ready for Darien on Thanksgiving, a chance to possibly ruin Darien's season again. Darien very close to a playoff spot. Even with a loss, they might be able to get it. We'll get into that in a second. But New Canaan obviously already clinched in Class L. So they will get to defend their title. Very close to a home game as well. Number 3 is West Haven. We just talked about Cheshire, 25-14. They've also clinched a home game. There's a good shot that they could probably play for a home semifinal game as well if they beat Fairfield Prep on Thanksgiving Eve. And then number 2 is Maloney. They're just cruising right along, whipped up on Connor, 38-7. They now face Platt for a chance to get a home game and more, possibly in the Class L playoffs on Thanksgiving. Even a loss, no big deal. They'll still get in. They'll probably still get a home game, too. They only have 1 loss date. So good job by Maloney. Number 1 is Greenwich, which beat up on Ridgefield 35-0. Now they take a breather and get ready for Staples on Thanksgiving. A win there will give them the overall number 1 seed. Even a loss, though, and the Cards are going to just drop to number 2. There's no way the loser is going to catch them, or maybe even West Haven will get up there with a win. But they are going to get one. They're going to at least get a home cooking for the semifinals. Greenwich, so no big deal there. Just kind of bragging rights and maybe a preview of the Class AA playoffs. But and that's about it. So there you go. There's the top 10 poll. Like I said, nobody really cares that much about the poll at this point because we just care about the rankings. It used to be this time of the year, the teams are jockeying for position. You might have 1 or 2 teams that were in it. But now with 6 divisions, it's a lot more complicated to figure out because now you got 2 extra divisions you got to figure out the calculations for. But it's a lot easier when you realize that, like half the fields are in. They've already clinched mathematically. Now, Just a little caveat here before we're going to get started. We're going to jump right into the playoff scenarios. If you want to follow along, it's very simple, but it's also very complicated. It can get very complicated. So if you beat a team, you get 100 points. And then you get 10 points for every victory that team accumulates. So if you beat a team that finishes 8-2, you get 180 points. So that's the basic setup of how this works. But then there are modifications. Now the state divides the classes up into LLL, MMM, and SSS. If you defeat a team that's in 2 sections higher, you get 30 extra points. If you defeat a team that's just 1 section higher, you get 10 points. Then they added a little extra wrinkle because all the alliance, they wanted the teams to be in the alliance. The alliance didn't want them balking at playing out of league conference games without, any kind of incentive. So they successfully lobbied the CIAC to add an extra layer of protection. And so now you will get 5 points for every victory any of your opponents accumulate throughout the season, not just the ones you defeated. So you get 10 points for the ones you defeated, but then you get an extra 5 for everybody you play. So if I go 5-5 and play a bunch of teams that are 8-2 and I lose to them, I still get 5 points for every win that they accumulate, just to kind of help it out. So that's basically what it is. And then you add up all the points for your schedule, and then you divide it by the number of games played, and that average is compared to the rest of the team's averages. The top 8 averages will qualify for the state playoffs, with the top 4 averages getting home quarterfinals the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. The top 2 seeds will get home field advantage throughout the semifinals, and that's basically how this works. So if you didn't understand anything, don't worry. We'll kind of walk you through it the rest of the way here, but that's basically how this works. So the CIAC this year has moved over to a new, if you probably noticed, a new website that they're bringing a third party in to do a website, and they're rolling it out in the season, which has kind of caused a lot of headaches because there are a lot of information in there that's been transferred over that's just not translating over. And there's been, if you're a coach or a fan who likes doing this stuff, you've noticed there's some games missing or there's some results that are counted twice, or, it's in short, it's confusing. It's been really tough to figure out. We've been trying to work with the CIAC to kind of say, like, hey, you guys don't have this, you're missing that. And they've been diligently trying to catch up. I applaud their efforts in trying to get this done, but they got to get it done quick. I hope we were noticing mistakes as late as last week. And I just hope that this is all, everything's okay. And all the information is correct before the football committee meets, the day after Thanksgiving to approve the points. Otherwise, we might have some troubles. But I think they're going to get it right. If you see something, say something to the CIAC. If you see something that's amiss, send them an email. We certainly have. So the last thing I'll say about it is, so there's a little bit of a caveat. We can't fully, completely commit to what we're going to give you here, but this is to our best knowledge and our best calculations, which admittedly are a little tough. Pete, aren't you glad you don't do this?
Yeah, look, if you're from New York, you know that we had to take Regents exams. I never passed Math B. I don't have an advanced Regents diploma in high school because I never got past Math B, so this math is way beyond me.
I had to take remedial math in college. It was just because they sent you a take-home test, and I guess I couldn't pass that. I was terrible at math. English, on the other hand, I'm okay. At least I'd like to think so. Maybe not all the time, my editors would say. But math, no, not my strong. I mean, you really need some guys who are just the analytical mind. I do not have that. In fact, before we start recording this podcast, I had to tell Pete, give me another 10 minutes to turn into 40 minutes as I made some fixes on I forgot to carry the 1 or something on some of these. It's been tough. But Mike Fornabio has done the bottom half. I've done the upper half. Again, take these with a grain of salt, but we're going to run it down through you and talk about who's got what's going on. So here we go. Starting in Class S, Bloomfield is number 1 as of, we're recording this on a Sunday. So Bloomfield is 7-0. They're in the middle of their game versus Tolland right now. It's 14-7. Bloomfield actually looking to make it to go up 2 scores in that game. But apparently a Bloomfield player got hurt, and they had to postpone the game, which is now scheduled for Monday night. You're watching this on a Wednesday morning at the very earliest, and so we don't know what the situation is there. But the news for Bloomfield is they have clinched a state playoff spot along with Ansonia, Oxford, Notre Dame, Fairfield, Griswold, and Cromwell Portland, which completed its wipeout of Coggins Co-op 57. They only scored 30 points in the half they played on Saturday, 57-13. So Cromwell Portland also clinched. The big news in Class S. So right now that leaves just 2 more spots remaining in Class S. North Branford, Pete, back from the dead with a wild game versus the Morgan Co-op. A.J. Siegel ran for 5 touchdowns, the last on 4th and 5 from North Branford 36 with 94 seconds left to go. That basically sealed the game in a seesaw 37-34 victory over MSW Co-op. Just an incredible. He accounted for. He scored 5. He ran for 5 touchdowns, but he threw for another to Tommy Hansen. And North Branford back from the dead. They can clinch by defeating Coggins on Thanksgiving week. And this was a team that lost to Windless Valley a few weeks ago, Pete. Good job by Anthony Salvati's guys. In a game that they could have easily folded the tents, but AJ Siegel, man, what a performance!
Yeah, it was great to see. We had Coach Salvati on this show, and I think we were all sitting there scratching our heads after the Valley game, wondering what the heck happened. Great recovery. The question I do have is I don't remember getting tagged in a tweet when they lost to Valley.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, when you lose games, you don't want you feel kind of bad about losing. You don't want anyone to know about it. So I get it in a way. But yeah, they did certainly give us the business for picking against them, preventing us from having an undefeated week. What are you going to do? But hey, North Branford's kind of right in the thick of things right there. The last spot is going to come down to a lot of different things. Woodland in the mix. Stonington has fallen off. I'm looking at their Westerly game on Thanksgiving. I don't even know how many points Westerly is going to give them. But Woodland, Stonington, Morgan Co-op are the 3 teams I think are going to be in the running for that. And obviously North Branford if they win. So that's Class S right now. Moving up to Class Double S. Now, again, these are according to Michael Fornabaio's calculation. So if anything is wrong, it's on him. Granby is clinched. They're the number. They're the number 1. Granby is clinched. Wyndham at 6-2 is very close. So you can kind of pencil them in from right now. They got 2 games left: New Fairfield and Montville. Tolland, as we mentioned, they got Bloomfield. They're probably going to clinch. They beat E.O. Smith with a win, but Tolland just needs 1 win. If they can beat Bloomfield somehow, they're good. GNH, Pete, with a huge win over Holy Cross, 14-7. Where did they come from and what's going on? Holy Cross. We'll get to that in a second. But Coggins also in here. Coggins, even though they lost to Cromwell Portland, still with a good chance to get in. They have 2 games left, Capital Prep and, of course, North Branford. If they can beat Capital Prep, they will get in. Sheehan also with 2 games left versus Hand and Lyman Hall on Thanksgiving. The Hand game obviously will put them in, but even if they don't win that game, they will get in with Lyman Hall. Barlow with a big win over Pomfrog to get themselves back into the race here at 5-4. Watertown at 4-5. Bourne's got 2 games left. Ledger with a big win over Stonington this week puts them in position to maybe sneak in to get a spot. It's kind of a mess down there at the bottom. We'll know more after this week. New Fairfield can possibly get in there too. There's another team, but they got games versus Wyndham and New Milford, so they can kind of have an effect on this playoff division. Everything else past that, it's going to be tough. Plainville, we'll see. But that is Class Double S.
We have the chance for half the teams to be 500 or worse. I mean, we had such a problem with Branford getting it last year at 5-5. We're going to have, if things go south across the board, we're going to have 6-4 or 5-5 for every team in the bottom half of that.
Again, this was a problem. You got the coaches got their wish.
I hope they're not wishing for more.
Yeah, over 500. We should be in those types. I don't agree with that. I think you need to be a little bit better than that. At this point, if you're a 500 team, you basically lost all the good teams in your schedule. I think it's fair to say, right? So what are you doing in the playoffs? 6-4, kind of the same thing. Maybe not quite, but you've lost all the good teams on your schedule. If you lost the good teams, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. That's kind of how this is supposed to work in football. It's not basketball, guys. It's not. So in Class M, the last of the 400 bio calculations, Northwest United, SMSA, and Rockville are all clinched. I know Hand is sitting there at number 3 right now, a win, and the Tigers will get in. Holy Cross, despite their loss to Gilbert, Northwest, and Hoosie, they can clinch with a win over Wilkin. Hand is very close, even if they don't beat Sheehan or Guilford, but one win there will put them in as well. ATI and Bullard Havens, they play a huge game with massive Class M implications on Friday night. Winner is in. The loser is in a tough spot, but if the loser happens to be ATI, they at least get another chance to qualify against Northwest United. Bullard Havens was going to have to, if they lose, is going to have to sit there and hope things break their way. Berlin isn't quite in with a win over Middletown on Friday night, but it gets into the driver's seat. It's going to need a few bonus points to go its way. Branford, Lyman Hall, and E.L. Smith also with a chance to get in, but they're going to need to win and get help. St. Joseph, Brookfield, and Harvard Public need wins and even more help than them. But of all those teams, probably only 2 out of that group is going to make it. We'll know a lot more about this division after the weekend's games. Let's go to the ones I did in Class Double M. Windsor, Platte, Wilton, Fitch, and Masuk are all in, leaving only 3 spots left in Double M. Windsor, Platte, and Wilton are all in line for home quarterfinal games with victories over the next week. Windsor obviously plays Bloomfield on Saturday. Platte plays Maloney on Thanksgiving, and Wilton plays Shelton on Friday. Masuk, despite all of its turmoil, which we'll get to in a second, could also squeeze into a home quarterfinal spot by beating Newtown on Thanksgiving Eve. If any of them faltered, that would open the door for Fitch to get a home quarterfinal game. But North Haven and Guilford are both not qualified yet, but they're very close, especially North Haven. They are in with a win over Hamden or Amity. Guilford would be very close if it beats Amity this weekend. A win over Hand would definitely put them in. But if either somehow loses both games, the Grizzlies would be in trouble if they somehow lost both games. Cheshire, a win over Southington will clinch it for them. That's easier said than done. If they can't beat Southington, Bunnell would slide into that final spot most likely, or one of those final spots with a win over Stratford. Any shot that Bristol, Eastern, Xavier, or even Pomprock or Thamesbury would have involved winning their games and then getting a ton of help, especially Guilford losing twice, which probably is not going to happen. Right now, the big game there is Cheshire, Southington. Cheshire loses, they're going to be out if Bunnell wins. If not, then Cheshire maybe can squeeze in there. But Pete, you saw the Cheshire West Haven game. You know what's going on with the Rams, and are they going to be able to beat Southington on Thanksgiving?
I don't know about beating Southington on Thanksgiving. This is a team that played without Matt Jeffrey. Their starting quarterback Marsh, their leading tackler Jack Brewster. They were down 2 other starters, I think both on the offensive line. Now, look, they played West Haven fine. They only lost by 11. They had chances in that game. But, man, it was hard watching them try to move the ball against West Haven without, Matt Jeffrey and Marsh. Jeffrey Gonzalez can only do so much. And, I talked to Don after the game, Coach Druss, and I asked him, what did he think, about his team's performance against West Haven, missing all those guys?
Just really proud of the effort. I'm really proud of our guys. I mean, we showed up and played really, really hard for 48 minutes. And it's kind of what we do. We've done that all year, I'm just proud of the room. I'm proud of the effort. I'm proud of the preparation piece of it. And I couldn't be prouder to be around the guys that I'm around on a daily basis. And yeah, it hurts, it stings, and you look at it, and I think we had 6 turnovers or something like that, and you can't do that against a good football team, But I will never take away from my guys and question ever how hard they play, their heart. You have guys like Gonzalez and Evan Russo. I mean, those guys, even Sumala, a kid playing Mike linebacker for the first time, played the whole game. He played phenomenal. And you know what I mean? Adam Vernon, you have guys that all stepped up. And Lucas Chimbor, you have guys, seniors that continue to step up and make plays because they care about it. They care about each other. They care about the program. They care about what it looks like.
I don't know if they can beat Southington. We're going to pick that game in 2 weeks, but I just have a really hard time with Guilford getting in over Cheshire when Guilford plays a tier 3 schedule and Cheshire plays a tier 1 schedule, and Guilford's going to get into the playoffs over Cheshire, even if Cheshire loses. Like, if Cheshire goes 7-3 with a tier 1 schedule, that's better than going 8-2 or 9-1 in a tier 3 schedule.
There is a slight chance, Pete, that Cheshire could outpoint them if they lost.
Cheshire should outpoint them by just existing and playing their schedule. It's not an offense to Guilford. This is great, and I'm glad that they're playing well, but they do not deserve to go to the playoffs over Cheshire. And that's not either of their faults for being in the same division. But I'm just saying this is just stupid.
This speaks to the criticism about any of these playoff systems where, the leagues run their schedules this way and the state does its playoff points this way, which is not in line with the leagues. So again, these SEC Tier 1 games are great and competitive. They're great for fans, but it's not fair to the schools that are playing them. You need to balance it out, especially when Guilford is in a Class AA division with Cheshire. If Cheshire is going to be in a division with Guilford, that's the one thing I thought the Alliance guys actually were correct about. I think we need to balance the schedules out by playing more schedules that we've said it a billion times over, by playing schedules that are more in tune with your playoff class. Now, not these playoff classes. These are too small. They've got that whole thing wrong. We don't need 6 playoff divisions, maybe 4 and then a co-op division, and you can schedule them out. Yeah, you actually can get some good games and some games around you that keeps rivalries going and things like that. But the general gist is that we got to bounce the schedules up, because you are 100% correct. Nothing against Guilford. Congratulations. You've won 7 games. Maybe you can win your best season in years, but it's not Cheshire. It's not Cheshire's schedule. 100%. Moving over to Class L. This is basically almost wrapped up. Naugatuck is in. They've got a home game. New Canaan is in. Newtown is in. Maloney is in. I think New Canaan and Newtown are pretty close to having home games. Maloney getting there as well. Will definitely get one if it beats Platt. Number 5, Shelton. They need a win to get in, and that would be against Wilton this week. Number 6, Darien. They need a win to get in over New Canaan, but I still think both Shelton and Darien will get in, even if they have losses. They've accumulated just enough points. I think it'll be close. But here's where it kind of turns. Now, Killingly, let's jump to Killingly quick. Killingly, by beating Woodstock, which it should do. Soren Reef, another great game. They're making a great run at it. He's gone over 2,000 yards for his rushing season, which is not bad. But Killingly, with a win over Woodstock, would get in. Now, the game, Class L comes down to South Windsor and Enfield. Now, South Windsor and Enfield play each other this week. So this class possibly could get wrapped up. If South Windsor wins, they're going to get in. But if Enfield can knock them off, they can get in. But they got to still beat Manchester. And if not, that could kind of open the... Well, first of all, Shelton and Darien will get in with wins. And Killingly will be in. That will open the door maybe for New Milford to get in. I don't think Hall and then Ludlow. So I think New Milford can squeeze in there if Enfield beats South Windsor and then loses. But it's going to be real close. I think New Milford can get in over South Windsor with a loss. If New Milford beats New Fairfield and South Windsor loses to Enfield. So this is all coming down to that game this week. Enfield, South Windsor, be there, be squared. It's all for the Class L marbles. The rest of it is just seeding. Again, Shelton looking good, Darien looking good, Maloney obviously looking good. So that is where we stand in Class L, pretty much wrapped up there except for seeding. And moving to your favorite division, Pete, Class Double L, which is just, we've said it a billion times, it is a horror show. Greenwich, West Haven, Staples, Southington clinched. Stanford, which had a big win over Danbury this week, and Manchester, which has got to play Enfield, and New Britain are all win and in. All those teams have been a while since all those teams have been in the playoffs. I think Stanford, it's been at least 30 years going on at least. But Stanford, Manchester, and New Britain are all win and in. Stanford plays West Hill, Manchester plays East Hartford, and New Britain plays Hartford Public. All those teams win, they will get in. And that will leave us with one spot. And it's basically coming down to Kennedy, which is 5-4, has got Crosby left. That's not a gimme. Glastonbury, which has got Simsbury 1-8, not getting a lot of points there, but they can finish 5-5. Maybe they can squeeze in if Kennedy loses. And then you have Hampden, East Harvard, and Fairfield. Fairfield Prep is the wild card here. The others are kind of are in a tough spot. But Pete, with Fairfield Prep getting 2 wins, they would need to beat Notre Dame, West Haven this week, and then West Haven, which will give them a ton of points the night before Thanksgiving. If Fairfield Prep can somehow get that, it would get them to at least 920 points. Unless, they would need probably East Hartford to lose to Manchester, which we could put Manchester in. And then you got Hampden there. If they lose to Notre Dame, they're going to be out. Or if they lose to even North Haven, Hampden's going to knock them out. Fairfield Prep, Pete, could potentially get over a Glastonbury team and even a Kennedy team if Kennedy loses to Crosby. But even if Kennedy doesn't lose, there's still a shot Fairfield Prep can get in at 4-6, which, as we said last week, would be wild. You were all in on the Fairfield Prep.
I'm all in on it. I'm in on it now. I think it would be awesome if they got in at 4-6 and just show how stupid this system is. Look, that would be awesome if Fairfield Prep got in at 4-6, but I think we could all agree that at 4-6, they should not be going to the playoffs. Hey, they started their season 0-6. They played a really tough schedule. Should not be going to the playoffs when you start the season 0-6. The fact that they even can, I'm all in on. Because I think they're more talented than every team on here until we get to Greenwich, West Haven, and Staples.
Yeah, we mentioned that.
And I think they can give any team a run in Double L except for those 3 teams. So I think it would be awesome if they got in. Obviously, they have to beat West Haven, right, to do it. So that's already one of the teams. They played Greenwich in the opener. That would be sick.
Yeah. Fairfield Prep's range is 920 with winning both games, 920 and 975. That is their range. They have 55 potential bonus games out there, including wins by Xavier, Hampden over North Haven. They're not getting that one probably. Greenwich over Staples, that's 5 points. Hand over Guilford, another 5 points. Darien over New Canaan, TBA, but that's only 5 points. Cheshire over Southern. So they're not getting they're going to get maybe half of these. North Haven over Amity, they'll probably get those 5 points. And another 5 points by Shelton beating Wilton. Look, they might get somewhere in the middle there. So let's just say 9. Let's put it up. Let's say 940, 45, or maybe 950. If they get 950, that would be, unless East Hartford won. And East Hartford is going to have a chance. But if Manchester beats East Hartford, that would help. Hampden losing any of those games are going to help. Glastonbury, 950. They'll be in a tight race with the Glastonbury if Glastonbury beats Simsbury. So that's kind of tough. We'll see. But Glastonbury still's got to get some ton of playoff points that they might not get. It's a big mess. Kennedy losing to Crosby is going to help. New Britain also, if New Britain loses, that'll basically knock New Britain out. I don't think not Stanford, but I think New Britain is another wildcard. If New Britain somehow loses to Hartford Public, which is possible, I suppose. If New Britain, that'll drop them down and open the door for 2 of these teams: Kennedy, Glastonbury, East Hartford, Fairfield Prep. So yeah, like you said, it's Class Double L. It's a disaster. Listen, it's Greenwich's to lose. Obviously North Haven wants to, or Staples wants to get a crack at it. Staples will get a crack at Greenwich on Thanksgiving. But there you go, Pete. That is where we stand with the playoffs. We have some intrigue, but some craziness too.
It's intriguing for some, but also we know most of these already. So the next 2 weeks, you kind of just shrug your shoulder and go, okay, we'll see who's there, because we're going to be fighting about seeding. Home games. Yeah, home games are very important. Let's not deny that, but I don't know, we're looking at seeding of which 5-5 team is gonna claw to get enough points to sneak in and go get blown out in the first round.
I hate this. Again, 6 divisions is just way too much, and it bears it out by the quality of teams you're getting into these spots. And some people would say, "Oh, what do why do we care?" Well, let them in there, and then you let them in. Look, you have guys already wanted to get more in. Oh, look how great it was. Let's get more teams in. Let's just put everybody in. Let's just start let's just start
72, baby.
Week 2 playoffs. All right, here we go.
Shouldn't even play the regular season. We should just do a big, like the playoff system in basketball. That's 5 months long. That's what we should just do.
So everyone can sit there and say, "Oh, look,
quadruple elimination," so everyone gets a fair shake.
Look, yeah, and then if you get eliminated, you still get given some games. There you go.
Yeah,
everyone's happy. And the best.
I will say though, I mean, if Prep's going to win, I think, this week to get to 3-6, and then that game against West Haven is going to be real interesting. Because like you said, West Haven's going to have it already locked up. They're going to have a home game already locked up. I think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sean. You're the math guy. If West Haven loses to Prep, could they keep a top 2 seed? Because Greenwich and Staples are going to play each other.
Well, yeah, a top 2. Let's see. I think if Greenwich knocks off Staples, West Haven loses, West Haven will still be the 2 seed. If Staples wins, then Staples will get the 2 seed, and Greenwich would drop to the 2 seed. Staples would get the 1 seed, and Greenwich would drop to the 2 seed.
Okay, so never mind. I was going to say, like, what's West Haven really playing for? Obviously, they're going to play for a home game in the semifinals potentially.
But they're going to get a home game. Yeah, that's what they're playing for. The home game in the semifinals, right? Yeah. If they win, they get it. If they lose, they need Greenwich to beat Staples, and then they'll still get it.
All right. Well, that was a lot of information. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I hope it's all right. Again, there's might be a little issues here and there. Again, are the CIAC schedules right? I think they are. I did a lot of cross-referencing. But then the one thing I didn't do, Pete, was I was right before we were both about to record, I was doing Class MM, and I forgot to give 10 points extra to teams that were playing L or double L schools. For example, so Platt plays Maloney, and Maloney's got 8 wins, right? So that's 180 points to them because it's 100 points for winning and then 80 points for every one of their wins. And I forgot they also get another 10 points for that win because Maloney's an L and Platt's in double M. And double M schools get 10 extra points by beating double L and L schools, whereas Class double S and S, they get 30 extra points by beating double L and L schools and 10 extra points for beating M and double M schools. So those are the thing there. And then the other thing is the strength of schedule, which still screws me up. The extra 5 points you get for every win of a team you played, not beat, but played. So you get 5 extra points. So there are now bonus points for people who follow along. There are now bonus points you can get that you would have got 0 for, but just because, let's say, for example, Berlin lost to Manchester, and then they'll still get 5 points from whoever Manchester plays. They might get, so it's really hard to do. And, again, it's tough. It's tough that the CIAC decided to put this thing out in the middle of the season. It would have been nicer if they had done it earlier or just have listened. Let's hold off, make sure the points are right. So last week, we learned just how dire the Masuk situation was before they boarded the bus to go to Brookfield. It was learned that Coach Eric Giordano, an assistant who has been on leave from the program since July 5th, resigned just as that Board of Education investigation entered its 5th month. He resigned the day before Masuk was to travel to face Brookfield, and he was followed by interim coach Brian Halpin, who'd been holding down the fort for the last 8 weeks. He resigned as well, and he was apparently followed by 3 other assistants on the team, and it looked like for a bit there that Masuk was going to just accept the forfeit. And in fact, Joe Cobbs, the superintendent, told parents that they were going to have to forfeit, and that set off a firestorm, flurry of activity. Finally, they were able to scrape together a few coaches to get up to the Brookfield game, and Masuk was able to rally and win that game 31-20. This last week was a mess of meetings. Parents demanding answers of Superintendent Joe Cobbsa and Principal Steve Swenson and the Board of Education. Diana Champagne's, whose sons you should know they play on the team, demanded answers from the Board of Education on a meeting on Monday night. She said, quote, "As parents, we're angry that you guys are allowing this to happen to our boys. Players were angry, sad, and devastated. I have them behind me. Some of them are here." She's referring to the fact that they almost had to forfeit a game to Brookfield, and she demanded that the Board of Education all resign because of this.
Because there doesn't seem to be any oversight to this board, and this isn't about the coaches. It's not about the student. It's about our kids. This is about accountability and responsibility. You failed our sons, and you should all resign.
Thank you.
couple of weeks earlier, there had been accusations that the Board of Education broke procedure by not formally establishing that they were investigating the program. David Ferris read a statement that formally announced that they would approve the investigation on July 5 and then adjourn the meeting without any public comment. That was almost a month ago. That was like October 17th. I spoke with Steve Christie this week, who's on full-on attack mode after 5 months. He said the 5-month-long investigation has been over a culture of fear and intimidation in the program, a charge he categorically denies. I'm not out, Steve Christie said. I didn't resign, and I'm not quitting. I'll never quit, and I'll never give them the satisfaction. Citing a school investigation and a police investigation that declined to pursue any charges, Christie has said, we've done nothing wrong, something that was reiterated by the principal and the athletic director. We've done nothing wrong, and I sit here 8 weeks later on the outside looking in. He said it was a sad day for coaches everywhere that Giordano had to resign, but he was defiant as this investigation stretches into its 5th month. We still don't know what his fate is, but with 1 game left in the regular season, I don't think you're going to see Christie having a triumphant return like he did with North Haven. And at this point, what's the point? I mean, there's investigation still going on. Superintendent Joe Cobb's only comment was he just hoped that this whole thing could be wrapped up quickly, and he was also frustrated by the length of this. He confirmed that a bunch of assistant coaches who didn't join the team at Brookfield were allowed to return. They didn't sign any formal declarations of resignation. And parents actually insisted that they would be allowed to come back, because at this point you need everybody if Mass is going to have any type of a normal season, because they got a big game against Newtown, and then they possibly, and it looks like they're going to make the state playoffs. So it was under this haze that Masuk took the field, Pete, still without stickers on the helmets representing Masuk on senior night. There's really not a lot to say about this game against New Milford, except you wouldn't know just how much turmoil is going on by the way they played. I mean, they were awesome. Led by the seniors, Jason Champagne scored 3 touchdowns, including on a punt return. Rob Klein, the quarterback, threw 3 touchdown passes, including this Butte, the senior Colin Hope, who goes in. The Masuk defense dominant as always. Luke Benway almost had a pick 6. He was called back from a penalty, but man, great play by him. And they go on to defeat New Milford. A pretty shocking score. New Milford was in it only for a quarter. Shocking score, 55-7. My goodness. Afterwards, Masuk's coaches collectively walked out together, turned around and said, no comment, Sean. No comment, Mike. We were walking out together. Nothing personal, but you won't be hearing from us. But they did send their seniors over, who have become basically the team leaders. You don't want to talk about guys who are leading their team and need to kind of step up. The Masuk seniors, and here they are, Jason Champagne, Colin Hope, and Rob Klein.
Well, we lost our coaches in the beginning of the week, but it didn't matter because we still had to go crazy for senior night. We had to get a playoff spot. It doesn't even matter. We still had to go crazy.
These are obviously very tough times, but this has proven how tough we are, and it's honestly brought us together even more than if these troubling times haven't been brought upon us. So I can't thank my brothers next to me enough, and I'm just so proud of the coaches and so proud of my teammates. And yeah,
it builds character for us, and I want to give a huge thank you to Joe Diaz and Sean Flynn for coming out and help coaching the defense. We couldn't do it without our alumni, and it just shows how strong the culture in this program is. We're a family, so we rely on each other and stick to each other when we're in need. Kind of just keep the noise aside, focus on playing, and just tune everything else out, because the only thing we control is the work we put in and how hard we come to work every day.
And listen, you point fingers, you can point at the Board of Education, for this investigation, which has been interminable. And I think that is the basic thing. What is going on? Why is it taking so long? There's a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo going along. And you can blame the coaches for walking out on the kids. There's a lot you can say. You can tell, though, Pete, where the players stand if you just listen to certain buzzwords, including that word culture. They are a group that says the culture here is alive and well. In fact, Colin Hope said it straight up. He said the fact that they got 2 alumni to come back, Joe Diaz and Sean Flynn, 2 of the great players in Masuk history. They're on that great 2010 Masuk team. The fact that they got those guys to come back, Colin Hope said it just speaks to the culture. You even saw it in Eric Giordano's statement. He hopes the culture can continue. There's a lot of people here who think the culture is just fine with Masuk. If you just read between the lines, you can see that. But, after you can point all the fingers to say, you can blame this side, that side. The one thing I will say on this whole thing is the Masuk seniors and the Masuk players have been great. Just great. Just listen to Colin Hope, what he said. We're just, it's a situation that's out of our control. We can do only what we can do, and that's just ball out. And that's basically what they did against New Milford. So, looks like they're going to be in the state playoffs, Pete. An utter mess. But, I give credit to the seniors and the Masuk players, but especially the seniors.
Yeah, it's been incredible what the kids have done. The adults, on the other hand, on both sides have just been like, I have a massive problem with the fact that they resigned right before the game and almost had them forfeit. You're not hurting anyone but the kids. And then they have to come back and beg to be back, and then they get to come back because they actually didn't formally resign. That didn't, right? Their big resign thing was supposed to, I guess, be a thing that was going to force them to close the investigation down and move on. But instead you almost screwed the kids. Yep. And thankfully they had the alum that came down, and thankfully, I guess whoever decided in the administration thought it was a good idea to reinstate 3 coaches that walked out on them the week before. But at the end of the day, those are the ones that were going to be hurt. Look, I understand this whole situation stinks, and there's a whole lot of pointing fingers. But the only people that looked like that almost got hurt are the high school kids who are trying to play and enjoy their last season. Now, this is the same. I mean, this group of seniors, they were freshmen when there was no football. And we screamed, all the parents, all the coaches, they screamed from the rooftops about opportunity and how everyone deserves to play. And here they are 4 years later, 3 years later, and coaches are taking away the opportunity. Now, you can blame the administration for putting them in that situation, and I will get that. But at the end of the day, those coaches decided to resign right before and almost caused them to forfeit. A forfeit loss might have knocked them out of the playoffs. How is that fair to the kids? Again, you can keep pointing fingers, but at the end of the day, it was the coaches that walked out that almost caused them to forfeit that day. And that is something that I don't think sits well with me. And the parents were okay with them coming back, and that's great. But man, if they would have forfeited that game and they would have lost, you can blame the administration all you want, but the administration did not cause them to walk out that door. They chose to do that. And that could have screwed a lot of things up for this senior group. The senior group that has done nothing but be amazing, have said the right things, have gone about it in a mature way. That's the thing that just does not sit well with me.
I mean, again, I don't know. I didn't get to talk to any of those guys and to see what, although, a lot of people are talking, they would love to talk maybe later. So maybe some people will talk when this is all over. I'd love to hear all these stories coming out about what happened and what really went down. But, you're right, Pete. It's not a good look. The fact they almost forfeit is not a good look. But, also, what else is also not a good look? That an investigation into culture of the program after 2 other investigations where the police report said nothing was going on. And I don't know. It just, why is this taking so long? I think that's the big thing. Why is it taking so long? Let's get some resolution. Have you ever heard of a speedy trial? Everyone's a right to know what their fate is. Let's get this thing over with. The fact they're holding these guys in limbo really tough.
It's not court, though.
No,
I don't know if those.
No, I know that. But why? How long is this taking? The police that just wrapped up in a week. So I don't know. Not a week, but it didn't take 5 months. What is the board of education? What is the board of? I mean, is that bad? Board of education? No. I hear not, but we'll see. It's a crappy situation all around. Everybody, all the adults. Let's put it this way, all the adults.
All the adults are doing are pointing fingers. No one's taking responsibility of anything except for the mature seniors on the team.
The parents afterward came up to us and said, thankfully, we had something positive to talk about. And now they're going to be going to the playoffs, maybe regardless of whether they beat Newtown or not, which, they're going to want to beat Newtown. Speaking of Masuk Newtown, Pete, it's time for shout-outs. And Newtown had a huge 28-13 victory over Benell to kind of stay the course in the Class L race. I'm going to kick us off with the shout-outs, Pete. And I'm going to start with Ryan Schaufstall, their quarterback, who, with Jared Cordova injured, Ryan Schaufstall came on and scored 2 touchdowns, one to take the lead, the other to push the margin to 2 touchdowns and a 28-13 victory over Benell. That's a great job, man. It's coming on in a big spot like that at quarterback with a big win. Pete.
I'm going to go with my guy, Armani Reed. We talk about Armani all the time. He's one of the best players in the state. He is a first-team caliber guy. And in a game where Cheshire had no business, they did not want to give him the ball. They did not want to punt or kick the ball to him at all. He picks up a punt, spinning in the 8-yard line in front of 2 Cheshire defenders, makes one guy miss, stiff arms another guy, goes 92 yards to the house, puts them up 11, which was the final score, as West Haven improves to 8-1. Coach Rich Boucher had the best quote at the end of the game about Armani Reed. You got to remember who he is, even if Coach Boucher jokingly sometimes forgets.
Is it a matter of if or when it's going to happen, a play like that, to help you guys win?
What's that kid's name that returned that punt again? Armani Reed. Yeah, he's not bad. No, I just said to Mike, every week Mike DeVito says no one's ever punted to us again, ever. And I say, Mike, the punters are high school kids. They make mistakes, and they made a mistake tonight, and Armani made another one of his unbelievable, fantastic punt returns. Him and Dante Kelly, they got to go head-to-head on punt return highlight shows sometime, because they're both exciting players. But Armani's our guy here, and we're really glad he is, because we wouldn't be 8-1 without him.
What do you got, Sean?
Pete, I'm going to run over to Wilton. Joey Harrigan ran for 2 touchdowns and threw a 13-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Smith in the second quarter of a crazy 63-22 victory over Fairfield Ludlow. That game, Pete, was scoreless after one quarter and ended up being, 80-something, 85 points. Wilton is going to the Class AA playoffs and basically ended Ludlow's season. They're going into Thanksgiving to play Fairfield Ward. Pete.
My next shout-out is going to go to GameTimeCT's Dave Stewart for doing the box score for that Wilton-Ludlow game. I kid, I joke, shout-out Dave, but my next shout-out is going to be my guy, Jet Hall, from Naugatuck, the quarterback with heavy quotes, 152 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. They threw 10 passes, completed 7 of them, and threw 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers. He had 5 total touchdowns in the game for the Greyhounds as they beat Seymour. They got Ansonia up next. Jet Hall, he's been our guy. He's having a fantastic senior season. Who do you got, Sean?
Pete, I'm going to go over to the ECC, and A.J. Adamick of Ledyard, basically putting Stonington's season on life support, carried the ball 42 times for 284 yards and 4 touchdowns to hold off the Bears. 38-28, a huge win for Ledyard, which has kind of had an up-and-down season all year. In 5 games since they switched to a single-wing offense, he has gained 1,239 yards on 153 carries with 13 touchdowns. A.J. Adamick embracing the single wing over at Ledyard, and now Stonington needs a win and help to get into the Class S playoffs. Pete.
I'm going to go up to Southington for my guy, Rashard Williams. He ran for a touchdown, he caught 2 touchdown passes, and he returned a fumble for a touchdown, 39 yards to the house in a 48-14 win. Not only did he score 4 touchdowns, they were the first 4 touchdowns for Southington in the game. And jump back to last week, he had a pick 6 in the game against Maloney. This guy can do it all over the field. And if the stats are correct on the internet, which I believe that the majority of them are, he is over 1,000 yards receiving, and there is no one close to him. Way to go, Rashard.
Yeah, he's been ridiculous. And that essentially was a playoff qualifying game right there for Southington, winning that game. And now in Cheshire, they can just play for seeding. I mean, I don't even know. I think they're in great shape as far as getting a home game, too, especially if they beat Cheshire. So, crazy. So, Southington, nice job. Pete, I'm going to go back to the ECC and a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. Might have put him in with this game, but Soren Reef, we thought New London coming off a big win over Wyndham before, but our guy, Soren Reef, just continues just ripping it up. 286 yards, 4 touchdowns on 40 carries. He also had a sack and another tackle in a 41-7 victory over the Whalers. He did go 0-for-1 passing, so I guess we can't all be perfect. But Killingly right now, just a win over Woodstock away. from actually qualifying in Class L, which they shouldn't be in, but hey, who's counting? In Class L, that's a great job for a team that was really struggling to start the season. Pete.
That's 2,000 rushing yards for the season for Soren Reed in 9 games. That is absurd. All right, I'm going to go to the CCC. My guy, Jaden Four, running back at Bristol Eastern. I saw him last year play against Berlin, and he was so good in the game. Berlin won, but he was so good. He's had a great season this year. He eclipsed 1,000 yards last week in a 48-8 win over Avon. In that game, he rushed for 178 yards on just 16 carries and 4 touchdowns in the win. Hell of a game, Jaden. Sean?
I'm going to go over the CCC, a team that's fighting to get into its first. I mean, I don't remember a lot. I mean, well, actually, I do remember. I remember the last time it was Sean Robinson and those guys at New Britain with the 2018. Was that the year?
2018, yeah. They played Greenwich.
Great, yeah. Greenwich. And now with Bowley now, the head coach, New Britain is right on the cusp of the Class AA playoff berth. Donovan Campbell, the junior, threw for 3 touchdowns, the first 2 of the game, as his team built a lead, and then the last of the game on 4th and 14 to close out the scoring in a big 51-34 victory over East Hartford in the Class LL playoff race. That basically dropped East Hartford down. They need to win and get help. They need to beat Manchester and get help to qualify this week, or to at least maybe put itself in position to qualify this week. But Donovan Campbell, now New Britain just needs to win their final game against Hartford Public to get in this week. Big time effort by him. Good job, New Britain. Pete.
I'm going to go to the FCIAC, and we talk about this guy a lot, but Caleb Smith, I mean, he is having an unbelievable senior season. He had a big arm last year. We talked how great he could throw the ball, he could spread the ball all around. This year, he has been doing that, but he's really been doing a lot of damage with his legs. In their 49-3 win against St. Joe's, he rushed for 184 yards and 4 touchdowns. This kid is a bowling ball. It was Staples' first win over St. Joseph since 2015. Clinched him a spot in the Double L playoffs, and they have a shot for the number 1 ranking in Double L if they can knock off Staples for the 2nd straight year on Thanksgiving.
I'm going to give one more shout-out, Pete. I'm going over my allotment to kind of segue into this prep school update. I'm going to give one more shout-out to Jenna Owasaya of Hamden Hall, who caught a 33-yard touchdown pass from Charlie Gublin with 2 minutes to play as Hamden Hall rallied from 19 points down in the first quarter, mind you, to defeat Proctor Academy up there in New Hampshire 20-19 to secure the school's first outright Evergreen League championship Friday night in Andover, New Hampshire. And Charlie Gublin was 15 of 24 for 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. As Hamden Hall now is the number 1 ranked team in NEPSAC Class B, will now play Dexter Southfield in what amounts to the overall NEPSAC B championship in the Joe Lang Bowl. So congratulations to Chenna and Hamden Hall. Thanks to my pal Dave Berman for giving me the pronunciation on Chenna, who's a family friend, and I've got to meet them and hang out with them. So congratulations, guys, and good luck this weekend. So the other big development in the NEPSAC this weekend was Cheshire Academy had a chance to wrap up a regular season by beating Suffield Academy and maybe play in that overall NEPSAC championship game versus Choate. Should Choate go undefeated? Well, their final game of the season at Suffield Academy didn't go as they planned. Suffield Academy's Brady Fisher caught an 88-yard touchdown pass from Nick Panichev in the 4th quarter, and Brendan Toppin picked off Dante Reno at the 5-yard line with a minute remaining to secure a 20-13 upset victory over Cheshire Academy in the East Prep Conference game. They intercepted Dante Reno 3 times, including the first one. O'Shea Maxwell took 97 yards for a touchdown in the first quarter. Jameer Pitcher also had one to end a scoring threat. Hayden Bennett was all over the field. He scored a touchdown for the Tigers, but the big one was the Brady Fisher 88-yard wide open over the middle, 88-yard touchdown pass midway through the 4th quarter to win that game. And now Cheshire Academy, instead of playing Choate, which finished undefeated with their 44-14 victory over Deerfield, Cheshire Academy will now play Avon Old Farms in what amounts to basically the second overall championship game. Avon All Farms taking care of business, so it'll be Avon versus Cheshire Academy. Camden Hall will play Dexter Southfield. Canterbury will play Worcester Academy. And Chokes, undefeated in the NEPSAC, looking to win the championship they didn't win last year. They will play Phillips Exeter, which actually lost to Cheshire Academy early on in the season by 1 point. It was that close. That'll be this weekend, so big happening there. So that's the news. That's the shout-outs. That's the prep update. Let's put a bow on this thing, Pete.
Yeah, let's go enjoy the rest of our Sundays, eh?
Yeah, let's do that. For Pete Paguaga, I'm Sean Patrick Bowley. We'll see you soon on the Pick'ems podcast. This has been the Meek Runner at GameTimeCT.
Love you all.